use my affiliate link to support the channel down in the description. Hey, what's up guys? It's MetaGamesGX here, and we are going to be talking about Branded into Phantom Nightmare format. You know, it's going to be a new format coming up. We got to just get done with this last format a couple weeks after this last ban list. Branded ended up proving itself very well, being a 4th or 5th best deck, arguably. It's always in the top cut of all the breakdowns that I see from these regionals. So it's definitely showing out pretty strong. Obviously, it hasn't taken over the fire decks, but as I said in my previous videos, I think it's the best option if you want a deck that's not a fire deck. There's a lot of other great options, but I think it's one of the best options. You know, it was unhit on the ban list. But the question is, how is it going to be going into Phantom Nightmare format now that these fire decks are going to get more upgrades, mainly through Promethean Princess and Snake Eye Populace? So that's what we're going to be talking about today, because we can take a look at a few different things, look at what we should be doing going forward with the deck, and make a educated guess, and even look at 6 of the top matchups of the 6 best decks next format, in my opinion, and see what the pros and cons and how hard the matchup is for Branded. So if you guys want to see my post-Phantom Nightmare Branded list, let's get this video to 200 likes, and I will release my post-Phantom Nightmare Branded deck profile. Make sure to leave 200 likes below, and I will upload that immediately because we have a lot of changes to be done. I do have a list here that we're going to be going through that can give you guys some pointers for right now, and we can discuss Branded in general going forward. So leave a like below. So how good is Branded going into Phantom Nightmare format? I'm going to bring up a few points, and then we're going to go over the matchups. First of all, in the OCG, Branded is topping and is generally about the 3rd to 4th to 5th most represented deck every week on the Road to the King breakdowns, which is a website that tracks tournaments in the OCG very exhaustively, and every week it's basically Branded in the 3rd or 4th place. And this is with Branded with 1 brand fusion. They do have other things such as Grasp, but besides that, and Expulsion, but besides that, the builds are actually quite similar in what they're trying to do. And the deck is still doing very well against the meta with Voiceless Voices and the fire decks taking over. So I think that's a pretty good indicator of, even with Branded Fusion at 1, that the deck is quite strong even in a full power fire meta. In the OCG, these fire decks have not been hit really. Fire King is still full power, and Rescue Ace has been hit a lot. Also, Puppet is actually going to be pretty good this format, all things considered. People are going to be moving on to cards such as Soul Release and other ways to just do a mass removal of the multiple interruptions of fire monsters in opponents' graveyards versus just like one-offs like DD Crow. Those cards will still be pretty good, but I think that the thing is that this is going to benefit Branded because currently everyone's on DD Crow and Bell for these one-offs, and I think that will benefit us. And on top of that, Ash just kind of gets bad this format. All the fire decks have this Link monster, this Link 2 named Hida, which can take a fire monster in your graveyard. So if you use Ash on their Populace, they can just make Hida and still full combo, essentially. It's definitely not going to be a good card against the fire decks. It's going to be good against all the other decks, but if you're going to a tournament, you're mainly going to see the fire decks for the most part, on top of the, like, mana Branded and like purrely and stuff like that. So I think that Branded get benefits because the hand traps that hurt it the most are currently going to be the worst. Like Drolls, Nibirus, and Imperms are going to be really in style on top of board breakers. So this really does benefit Branded. On top of Super Poly, we are a Super Poly deck. We get to run Super Poly, and there's a nice interaction with the Princess where you can go Super Poly on a fire player's board, make a Mud Dragon, and call fires immediately, and they won't be able to make or use Princess effect because Princess needs to target a fire on their side of the field, and Mud Dragon makes it so you can't target fire on either side of the field. So definitely something to consider since we have Super Poly. That to keep it in there, I actually initially thought that we weren't going to be running this card. However, I think it's going to be still pretty good, all things considered, because it will clean up our rogue matchups and then also do a number to the Princess deck. So I think it's definitely a mainstay. We are also the best thrust deck, and we can thrust into Soul Release and then just do the Banish 5. Thrust is still just an insane card. It's going to be live on most decks, going against most decks, going second. So the fact we are the best thrust deck now that Unchained has been nerfed is something to consider. Now let's talk about the specific matchups and see where we are at with the deck. So I think with Branded, we have Fire King, which is projected to be the best deck in the room. It is able to use Promethean Princess the best since it benefits off your monsters being destroyed and it hasn't been hit on the ban list versus Rescue Ace. I'm going to put this matchup as a 60% in Branded favor, but it really is a lot of the die roll and seeing your non-engine that is going to determine this. You have a lot of things in engine that you're able to use against Fire King that already make the matchup actually quite good, because currently I'd put the matchup as very easy for Branded in the current format. However, post Populous and Princess, it gets definitely harder. It becomes a lot more even, where even if they win, or if they win the die roll, it can be an issue if they're resolving Populous uninterrupted and then you don't see a piece of non-engine. However, if you see really any piece of non-engine such as a Thrust, Super Poly, you're usually just able to still play the game. So we have in-engine things such as Dragoon, which is a thing that Fire King just frankly cannot get over, since it can't be destroyed and can't be you can go basically up to 4,000, 5,000 so that Garunix can't touch it. And then also we have a new package in Nel Shadal Ariel with Shadal Fusion. This is going to be a package that we all should be running, frankly, coming up in the new format, because it's basically soul release just through a branded fusion. So you run a Nel Shadal Ariel, and then you also run an Shadal App Cologne in your extra deck, and then you go into Grand Guignol, send the App Cologne, and then you're able to send the Ariel, and then you are able to banish 3 from your opponent's graveyard, and you're able to get rid of the Princess, the Ambloel, whatever you need to do in order to stop your opponent and just blow them out. And this is just a 2-card commitment, one in your extra deck and one in your side deck, or one in your extra deck and one in your main deck. And then you're also able to main or side Shadal Fusion, which is going to be quite good because it's going to be always live. Then also we can thrust into Soul Release very easily. So for that reason, I'm putting this matchup as still pretty good. And then we also have Super Poly, so we can call Fire, and then Princess can't target, and that really does cut off the deck. So I think all things considered, Branded actually has a pretty good matchup against Fire King. We have Rescue Ace. This is a easier matchup for us than Fire King, but it's still there's still a few issues that we have to cover. Dragoon they are not able to interact with once again, because all of their spells and traps target essentially, and they're able to go into an access code talker, but you're usually able to stop them by that point. Also, they are just not able to interact with Branded Lost in the main deck, since none of their cards pop spells or traps. So inherently this was always a pretty easy matchup, unless they're able to do set 4 and you don't see no non-engine. That's pretty much, and you start breaking, like, that can be an issue, especially when you see clumpy hands. So this isn't the easiest matchup, especially when you lose the die roll. However, if you win the die roll, you're really looking at a quite easy matchup, all things considered. And then obviously you have the same things with Shadal Ariel and Super Poly going hard against the Princess package in this post Phantom Nightmare. Now we have the Voiceless Voices, which is the new ritual deck that is going to make waves. It's going to be quite good. It's already the second best deck in the OCG, all things considered. And it has a pretty good matchup against Fire Kings. It's able to set up a board with an Omni Negate with over 4,000 attack, and then it's also very recursive. It's able to set up continuous spells and traps, kind of like Branded, but on your opponent's turn. The deck gets really hit though by Super Poly and single hand traps. So, and also it doesn't have great answers to Mirror Jade. So, and also just like obviously Albaz goes pretty hard against it. So I think that the thing is that it's a pretty in favor matchup for Branded. However, because like Branded Lost goes really hard. But it's a good deck, so it's one of those things where it's not a buy by any means, and this is going to be a matchup that you're going to have to be prepared for. But it's one of those things where if you banish the level 1 in the grave, or the Novox, you're able to really just play on their turn quite well and prevent the recursion. So a lot of the same sides that, you know, would go in against Fire King and Branded actually affect this deck. So I think that this is a pretty in favor matchup for Branded. All things considered. And then we have Snake Eye. This is a hard matchup. I think all things considered, pure Snake Eye, it's going to be one of the best decks. This is basically the variant where you're only running the Snake Eyes cards on top of just non-engine, because the Snake Eyes cards go really hard with Populace plus Princess. So these decks this deck is going to prove to be an issue for us, because I see a lot of lists already that run quite a lot of non-engine that we cannot deal with. So that's something that we are going to have to really that's why we're probably going to have to main deck Droll. I mean, Droll is already good against Fire King and Rescue Ace, but for the Snake Eyes matchup, this is a very difficult matchup for us, all things considered. Depending on their end boards, this is something I will say, because we might be able to still play into their end boards quite well, because it's a different tempo than Fire King. I just think that it's a harder matchup than any of the other decks previously mentioned. And then we also have the other decks that will be flowing around, such as Purrely. This is a hard matchup. This is probably the hardest matchup on the list. It's one of those matchups where you really have to see non-engine or have them have a board that's super polyable for you to play into the Noir quite easily. Or else they're really going to start picking your board apart. So definitely have that Herald of the Abyss in the side deck in order to not just lose to the Purrely player randomly in your bracket. And then we also have things such as Lab. I think this is actually a pretty 50-50 matchup, because Dragoon and Super Poly go really hard against this deck, but the fact they're able to play on your turn is quite annoying. But they aren't able to really interact with Dragoon outside of Daruma Cannon, and some builds don't even run that. So definitely is a solid matchup against them. And then we have Kashtira, where Dragoon, obviously we learned in full power Kashtira format, just completely rolls Kashtira, and then Board Breakers does wonders against this deck. And it's still Kashtira, so it's a very widely known deck. You know how to play against it. So I'd say this is like 60% in a branded player's favor when you know what you're doing. So all things considered, looking at the report card, and looking at just the amount of tops in the OCG in full power fire format, on top of the fact that currently in the format that Branded is doing amazing, doing quite well, with it being unhit on the ban list, and a lot of people moving away from hand traps that affect the deck, that Brand is going to be an amazing spot next format, and I could see it definitely taking anywhere from the 3rd to the 5th most represented deck at the end of the day. And we could see it also taking YCSs and everything. I'm going to still stand by the fact that if you want to play a non-fire deck, it's going to be your best option. I think between Kashtira, Purrely, and Vanadium, I think it's the best deck going, and it has the best matchup spread against any of these decks. If you know what you're doing, of course. So that's just my 2 cents as a humble Branded player. What did you guys think? Remember, guys, 200 likes if you want to see my Phantom Nightmare post-branded banlist or post Phantom Nightmare branded deck profile. We're going to talk about the goo that you want to be running for Fire King and all these new scary cards, because don't be worried, this is going to be looking like a tier 0 format. However, Branded has the tools to combat it, and we're going to be able to win some events and get our tops and hopefully win that this year. So with that being said, make sure to check out the links below. Use my Whatnot affiliate link, use my TCG player affiliate link, check out my Twitter, join the Discord, make sure to subscribe and leave a like if you want to see that deck profile. Leave a comment what you guys thought about the video. Be seeing you guys later. Bye now.